We've had him on before, knocking.
Former pro.
We heard the doorbell. You didn't say anything.
College player, vast financial background. I want to give it a little warm-up.
Is that a ding-dong ditch?
In the tennis world, we know him as the chairman and CEO of UTR Sports. So let's get Mark Leschly in here. We were doing so much chatting about UTR during the break. I'm here with Nick and Sam. I'm Jeff. It's good to see you again, Mark. How's your week going?
It's going well. Good to see you guys.
Mark, thanks for joining us, man. You're Palo Alto right now? What are you up to?
I'm in Northern California, just enjoying a beautiful morning here and watching a little tennis.
I know. Well, thanks again for joining us. You know, you're the chairman, CEO of UTR. A lot of players are now playing a lot of the UTR events. And I guess we'll just kind of start it off. You know, what's kind of new right now with the UTR?
Yeah, no, it's been a fun year. We just launched in the beginning of this year. We expanded our pro tour. So we're running 450 pro events around the world now in 30 countries, 21,000 matches, and paying out about $11 million in prize money. So it's an exciting new launch for us, an expansion this year, supporting the players in the pathway. So really exciting.
Mark, when it comes to the pro events that you're putting together, what's the ultimate goal? Are you guys trying to compete against the ATP Tour? Do you want to work with them? How do you see the vision of this going moving forward?
Yeah, 100% collaboration. You know, I think that when we sort of started this, you know, and I know, Sam, over the years, we've interacted on some fun things along the way. You know, it was really to support players and support the pathway. We jumped into pro tennis during COVID, and we set up some fun events. We did one with Tennis Channel down in Florida. Just to support the players. And then we sort of found that the pathway is fairly broken. It takes a long time. It's super expensive for players to make their way. And so we found a way to basically put a bunch of prize money in to support the players. Our events are a little different than your classic ITF events. You know, we run a round-robin format, and then we have a playoff. So when you come play our events, you get to play a minimum of 4 or 5 matches. And you get to make more prize money than you do on the ITF. So it's really about helping the players in the pathway. And, you know, we've been trying to work with the ATP and the WTA for years now to try to get ranking points into our structure so we can also complement that piece. But it's really all about supporting the players in the pathway. And so we have a lot of these aspiring pro players, about 250 in the world to about 2,000.
When it comes to the prize money, like you said, is that something you get local sponsors to come in and try to help your events? Where do you guys generate the revenue?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a combination. Part of this is, you know, we work with Sport Radar, so we do enable betting on some of our matches. At the same time, you know, we have basically built the technology from A to Z to be able to put up the tournaments, our tournament software, our rating we use. You know, our events are based on UTR. So if you're good enough, you can play. It's a meritocracy, right? As opposed to you have to travel the world and accumulate these ranking points. And as a result, we basically fund the whole thing. So when we set up an event, you know, it's going to happen. And we work with venues around the world in federations. And it's been a lot of fun so far. The players love it. They get so many matches, and you're playing people at your level or higher. So it's really been terrific. You know, this last year, I think we had like 52 players that had come off our tour, played in Grand Slams. So it really helps these players, you know, work their way up, get the matches, get the competition they need, and you sort of go from there.
Early on, when everyone was hearing about UTR, it was about the rating system, and it was about how cool it was that, you know, you can compare, you know, regardless of gender, regardless of level. And we've spent so much time here on this show talking about how the level of college tennis has gone up like crazy, and especially the level of the futures and the challengers. Now that there's been so many years, and UTR really has the most comprehensive data as far as like telling where someone is at, what do the numbers tell you now about the difference between, let's say, a college player, a player ranked 200 in the top 100? Has the data been showing that gap is shrinking a little bit?
Yeah, no, you're spot on there. I think the level of college tennis just keeps getting better, right? And I think that, you know, what happened many years ago when we introduced UTR was college coaches started to look internationally to find players. And because we rate players globally, it allowed the college level across the board to be elevated because they could recruit. So whereas back in the day, it used to be USC and UCLA and Stanford kind of dominated. Now, what we find is about 80% of college players, D1 and D3, are international players. And so they're really getting cherry picked from around the globe. Now we also have NIL coming into college tennis. So the whole notion of, back in the day, you'd maybe do a year or two in college and you jump out to the pro tour. We got away from that because there really was very hard for players to leave the college setting and jump out. Now you can come in with the NIL money. You can get paid an awful lot of money, get a full ride, you have a phenomenal experience, and then when you're ready, you can jump out. And the way we measure the players now, we know exactly what level you're at. So the notion of, hey, listen, when you jump out, can you then jump into the pro tour? Now, we're hopeful we can get points into our system and working with the ATP and the WTA, because then immediately, if you're really good in college, you can jump into the pro levels based on your level, as opposed to you now got to go grind the ITF or the Challenger circuit for many years. So it's been a fun time to watch the elevation of this. And for these young people to have a college experience, have that be part of their life and their camaraderie and development, I think is fantastic. So it's a really, really exciting time.
And Mark, maybe explain the SummerSlam. We saw the graphic pop up with the SummerSlam, and because right now with a lot of the colleges, they're just kind of finishing up with Wake Forest winning the men and Georgia winning the women. What does that look like now with your connection with the colleges?
Yeah, so one of the things that as we sort of expanded our tour this year, we wanted to continue to support the college setting and the players. And so what we're launching shortly here, actually in a couple of days, we're going to run 15 weeks of events on college campuses. So we have about 15 schools across the country. They're going to host events. And it's about $450,000 in prize money. This is really for 18 plus collegiate or post-college players. We're going to run them on the college campuses. This year, we'll do an aggregate about 90 events on college campuses. And these are pro events. I mean, full prize money. These events that we're going to do this summer are 4 days, round robin. So you get a guaranteed 5 matches. And so real prize money, meaningful dollars to support your pathway and your journey. Great competition, and then right in these exceptional settings. And so we're really excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. And, the college coaches are so thrilled with this, as you can imagine. We come to their settings, we support their players, and it's allowed some of these players to stay in the country for the summer and to train. And college now has really become a pathway to the pros. It's really different now. And, for example, we work with the LTA. They have 190 players in the college pathway. They literally have designed a pathway to the pros for the college players now. What they saw with Cam Norrie and others was, wow, holy moly, these players can really go to college 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and then boom, jump out on the tour. So it's a whole different level in college tennis now.
Yeah, we're going to speak with Tony Bresky later, the coach of Wake Forest that just won their 2nd NCAA title. Moeller now up a break here against Zverev, 4-2, 30 love. So with your events, there's also a fan perspective to it, not just on site, but also like TV and distribution. I'm curious, have you ever been intrigued by having like a different scoring format? Something like the UTS, of course, that's called an exhibition, but we got to keep the fans in mind here. Like, are you intrigued at all about any type of different tempo, different atmosphere, experimenting with anything?
Yeah. I mean, when we set out and we first did our pro tour, we sort of did singles only. We did the round robin. We stayed with standardized sort of tennis scoring. We've obviously played with different things. We haven't done that with our pro tour yet. We might consider that over time. But right now, I think we were innovating enough that we said, hey, look, let's just try to find a way to make this a really robust part to support the pathway. It's fun to see UTS and other things to try to get the fans involved. We stream our matches on Prime. We're looking to create a fast channel and other things just to get these matches out there. The players can come in and watch this. We're also going to be introducing some really cool new technology on our tour, electronic line calling, player and ball tracking, so that now we can start to add some really phenomenal analytics for these players to be able to see how they're developing, what they should be doing. Coaching in tennis, has been somewhat limited historically by access to data and really thoughtful insights. And so we're working on that. And I think we see a huge new momentum and wave coming in with data analytics, longitudinal data on how you're performing against whom. And we want to give that all to the players to help them.
We saw Sam Querrey playing a UTR event, one of those pictures maybe in 2018. Did you have to give him a code violation?
I won that event. I won that event, by the way.
He won it, so maybe no code violations. But what do you remember about that one?
Yeah, we had a fun event with Sam. We actually did a huge draw. It was like 270 players. We started at like really low UTRs, and you could work your way up in the draw. And then if you got in, you could ultimately play the pros. Actually, Brad Klon qualified. Sammy smoked everybody, took home a nice paycheck. And I think we had Tommy Haas in there. I think we had Steve Johnson in there. We had some fun players. There you go.
There you go.
This cop was actually a player in the tournament. And Sam was very gracious. And
he was a player. He was a player. You
played at security escrow. Such a big deal.
You played this guy. I love it.
Well, that's what was so fun about the event. We literally had ages 8 to 68, in all levels, and it sort of was a feed-in, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, hey, have a chance to play against Sam if you can get there. Well, this guy didn't get there, but
I love it.
He had some fun along the way.
It reminds me a little bit of the U.S.
Arrested.
You know how the U.S. Open back in the day, there was regional qualifying, and ultimately it allowed anyone to make it through. That was kind of the same concept, which I love. It is so fun to watch. I remember this event, you'd watch a 60-year-old guy play an 11-year-old. The winner gets through, and you feel like you're in the same draw as a professional, which is fun.
That's the draw.
Yeah. Well, and look, that's the whole premise of what we built. I mean, the whole notion historically, tennis has been expensive because it's been age and gender based, right? You travel the world to play 12-year-olds. This notion that you know what level you're at now, a 9-year-old can play a 60-year-old locally. Which is super exciting, right? And it allows you just to create more competition locally. And that's the whole premise of UTR, like create level-based play, expand the universe of people you can compete and have fun with. And frankly, a 12-year-old playing against a 45-year-old is going to see a ball that they're not used to seeing. They're going to see some spins, they're going to see some pace on the serve, and it really helps your development. I think they're much better about that in Europe, by the way. In these club settings, it's where I grew up, and you learn to compete better.
Muller now opened up a 5-2 lead. We began a third set with Raducanu and Collins on Tennis Channel. You touched upon it a little bit, Mark, about that you can bet on these matches, these UTR Pro Series matches, and as sports betting has just changed. We're sponsored by BetMGM here at this show, but how much do you lean into that? And to what degree has that changed everything with just the whole UTR setting?
One of the great things that we were able to figure out is, how could we design an entire new tour, and how can we get the type of funding in to enable us to be able to provide that prize money and support the players. So I think people sometimes are concerned about betting in sports, concerned about those things, but the reality is it funds this ecosystem in a phenomenal way, right? And so we have to manage carefully integrity around these things. We have every one of our matches on video. We monitor a lot of different things to make sure that young people in particular aren't compromised by this, right? Because as betting has come into it, there are some shady characters involved sometimes. But we've managed our integrity exceptionally well. We work with one of the best providers out there in Sport Radar. It's really a phenomenal global provider in support of this. So if it's managed well, I think this is a huge win for tennis, to be able to bring these economics in and support it. And we see this across the board. All the tours are supported by this, even the slams, as you guys know. So it's great. And I think adding more and more innovation to that so that, this can be continued to grow and expand is what we've been working on.
So cool.
So for us as a technology, it's really been a wonderful way for us to be able to give back and support. Originally, we weren't going to be in pro tennis, but we sort of created a tour out of thin air, and now we're sort of in our 4th year. And it just continues to expand and grow and support the players.
So many big things on the horizon. It's always great to catch up, Mark. Thanks for coming on and sharing all the insight and what's going on in the future. We got to have an eye out for all these Pro Series events. Hope to catch up soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Be good. Take care.
Take care.